Hello there guys, it's Joey and this is for the YouTube Pagan Challenge, and this video is what does Samhain mean to me? It's the most wonderful time of the year. Anyway, I've made notes to try and keep myself on the straight and narrow because I can go on and on and on and on and on and on about Samhain. So, firstly, let's just check. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about how Samhain makes me feel. It's a little bit difficult to really put into words about Samhain sometimes because it's just kind of a feeling of incredible excitement. It connects us to our almost witchy heritage, but it's more of a modern embellishment of a witchy heritage because it has tradition, but on the surface of it, it's basically evolved. It's one of these evolutionary processes that is attached to things to do with witchcraft, and that's what I believe in with regards to witchcraft anyway, that all parts and all paths evolve as time goes on. And Samhain and Halloween have kind of taken on a life of their own, and Halloween sort of becomes the mundane brother to Samhain in an almost conjunctual way, I guess, and they're kind of the same thing, but they're not really. And you know, Halloween or All Hallows, and that becomes perhaps a little bit more the commercial side, and then the Samhain is kind of the more ritualistic side, the honouring with the ancestors side, and the wheel of the year and the pagan side. But I think existing somewhere in the middle of these two things is where the excitement happens, because there's something absolutely thrilling and almost the camera goes for a walk, almost takes us back to our inner child and kind of has a healing vibration of getting into all of that sort of fun that comes along with Halloween. So there's the decorating and the decorations and the dressing up and the sweets. Maybe it's just a whole sugar high over Halloween, let's face it. And there's all that fun, thrilling party side of things, which is good to embrace. I think sometimes when we talk about Halloween Samhain, people get a bit huffy with the more commercial side of things, and I don't think there's any need to. You can celebrate all that fun stuff. I absolutely do every year. I save up all year round so I can buy myself some decorations every year, and there'll be one final Halloween haul following this video because I got some stuff last week in the sale that I completely got swamped with stuff that instead of videoing, so I'm going to do this video and then do that video, and then I'll be in the mood for Halloween and Samhain. I'm excited, can you tell? So on that side of things, I think it's fun, you know, the drinks and that food and that party and the decorations and the costumes. It's worth having fun with it, because if you can't celebrate something, you're kind of missing out a little bit. There is the solemn side, the ritualistic side, the embracing the inner witch side, the honouring the forgotten dead side, the honouring one's ancestors side, one's magic and divination and looking forward. There definitely is the more serious in tone, but I think you need the balance of both to fully embrace the holiday, the Sabbath, the season, the witch's new year. And I love this time of year. Now, autumn is friggin' late this year. We just about have autumn now, and it's, you know, and it's Halloween Samhain on Monday, and the woods aren't even fully turned yet. The village green is, but the woods aren't. So this year I've been like, where is my mist and my fog and my cold weather and my autumnal colours and the leaves all over the ground? Where is it? I love all of that. I think the dark half of the year, autumn, is my favourite, and going into winter a bit more. I appreciate it as I get older. I prefer it. I prefer all that sort of stuff. I like the long nights. I like the closeness. I prefer the dark half of the year. Maybe it's a dark goddess thing. Feel more connected and more in tune with that element of myself. But in autumn I just feel empowered, enriched, inspired, creative. I feel all the vibes going through the roof. I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Right, so I have some more notes to keep me on the straight and narrow, to try and keep me on the straight and narrow about what it means to me. So the first thing I'm going to actually show you is a leaf I picked up today. So this is my farewell leaf. This is something I do every year. I have a farewell leaf, and one of the first things I will do in the morning is I will go to the, well, it used to have to be the back door, but I think the back door makes more sense, of the property in which I am residing. And the goodbye leaf, you can write on it if you want, but I don't think it's entirely necessary to write on it. And then you just kind of imbue it with farewell messages to the previous year, and letting go, and then just allow it to go out the back door. So out the back kind of makes more sense, because then in the front door you're welcoming the new in. And the farewell leaf is something I do every year. So I thought I would show that as part of the Samhain video. Some other ideas of things that I do every single year, before I actually talk about this year and what Samhain means to me this year particularly, is the gratitude rituals that I do. And I do a number of different gratitude rituals. Present giving is one. A few people have had presents from me this year, and I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that, but it's something I can do to give back to people that I'm grateful for, and I will go about and tell people that I'm deeply grateful for them for this year, for whatever reason it may be. And just sometimes it's a status, sometimes it's telling people in messages, making people aware and making people feel good and appreciated, and that I am grateful for them, I think is an important part of anything, any lifetime, any circle of events really. But Samhain is a really good time to honour friendships and loved relationships, and just be grateful for things that have happened this year, friends who have stood by and offered you advice and enriched your life in one way or another. I think it's an important part, because sometimes when we're going into the dark half of the year and we're getting towards Christmas, it can get a bit overwhelming, and tempers can get frayed sometimes going towards that time of year. So before we get to kind of like the Christmas slash Yule slash festival time in the middle of December going on to January, which is a depressing time, I think it's good to express what we are grateful for. And that's not necessarily just people, but that's one example, and really expressing the things that, especially this year, and I'll talk about this year a bit more in a bit, but this year in particular, I think it's important to remember that we are grateful for certain things, the lessons, even if they're difficult. And then Samhain as a time of honouring one's ancestors. I usually share a picture of my grandma around this time of the year, usually online because it's easier. And I've bought some aniseed balls. Right, where are they? Come here, aniseed balls. So people, in case people don't know what I mean, this looks super dodgy. The brown bag. They're sweets. They're little aniseed sweets, red sweets. These work on many levels. These were something that I connect to with my grandma. She loved aniseed balls, and so did I, and it's kind of a connection there. They also look like blood droplets, which works with in regards to an ancestor altar, the blood of my blood, and then Morrigan energies as well, which of course are potent around Samhain, because Samhain is a festival which is, at least in modern times, associated very strongly with the goddess Morrigan and her coupling with the Dagda, and the coming together of life energies and death energies in a celebration and a culmination of the year. It's a wonderful dance between life and death energies, and it's kind of honouring both. And I think that's for me why I feel that we need to honour both sides of the Halloween Samhain divide, if you like, because it's the life and death divide, and it's a dance as far as I'm concerned. Halloween Samhain is a dance between life and death, a dance between what was and what will be, and death and rebirth even, and it all comes in this culmination, this dance of life in which we take the steps and we go through the motions, and depending on how we embrace different elements of the dance depends on how we improve, depends on how our form takes, depends on how much we enjoy it ourselves. So, you know, we can dance with lead shoes on and not enjoy it at all, but if we allow ourselves to be free and flow with this great dance of time, then we get more out of it, we become magical. That's kind of a poetic way of how I sort of feel about the Halloween, Samhain magic, if you like, that what it means. And for me, obviously, it's a good time to honour Morrigan in all of her forms, but particularly in her sort of crone element. Bave in particular is the energy which I feel most strongly connected with. If you have a look at the blog that I have just put up, and I will try and remember to link down below, I talk a little bit about Bave screaming and crow speak, which has been a profound spiritual experience over the last week and has come up a little bit too often. Time and again. It's been a very, very strong crow heavy energy right now. There's been a lot of shape-shifting energy right now. There's been a lot of crow speak and crow dreams. This morning in particular, the crows were very, very active, and they were very active when I came back from the neighbouring town, because I went to go pick up the aniseed balls amongst a couple of other bits. Crystals, they will also be in the haul video, apart from one which is a gift for someone else. There you go, gratitude rituals. So, and this year I'm going to be talking a bit more about the sands of time. I had some sand gifted to me from the lovely Miss Jen, and so I've been thinking a lot about sand and the sands of time and drawing lines in the sand and borders and barriers and all of this kind of interesting thought process and the evolution of thought that comes from sitting there and mulling over. That's going to be one of the faces on the Facebook mood. Yeah, me going that one will be it. So the sands of time energy seems to be coming into this Samhain in particular, and I'm going to just grab my quote. It's not a quote, I say quote. It's something that I wrote yesterday, just to remind me of my thought processes. Come on. Where are you? Samhain will definitely be about releasing, but also gratitude this year. It reminds me of the goddess poem I wrote some time ago, which the final lines are, "Because I love your every step, even when it stings." There have been a lot of stings in 2016. Our feet may have ended up bloody, stung, cut and bruised, but we are still walking, or dancing as the case may be in this particular video. I said at the beginning of the year I felt like 2016 was a year of death. I said on the blog that I feel like 2016 was definitely a year of death, and it was a year of Bave. And Bave has many elements and many aspects to her. One of them is quite menacing, and there's been a lot of death, a lot of carnage this year, and a lot of death in a sort of a decay sense. There's been a lot of cutting away at decay this year, and looking at things that no longer serve us, and looking at creating borders in the sand, which goes back to the sand rituals that I'm thinking of incorporating this year, and I may or may not write up about them following on the blog, or maybe tomorrow before the Halloween on Monday, so they're there if people are interested and have some sand and want to do something similar themselves. I think 2016 has been a year of cuts, of bruises, of stings. I think nobody has made it through this year unharmed, and then on the other hand I think it's very important on the other hand to be very grateful for these lessons. Some very strong, very wise daughters of Morrigan, who I've been talking to in particular, have had horrendous years, far worse years than I've had. I consider myself to have got out quite lucky this year, compared to how some people have had it. But people who have had worse years than me have been saying, you know, I've felt the hand of Morrigan on my shoulder the whole time. A lot of this has sucked, but I know how strong I am. A lot of this has sucked, but I have a newfound respect for my boundaries and what I allow in my life. And I feel that too. I think that there's been a lot of hardship, a lot of pain, a lot of loss this year. I mean, there's a couple of losses this year that have gone right to my heartstrings and cut me, but on the other hand, we find out how we survive and how we get through. And I think there's nothing wrong with feeling the loss that we have felt this year. A lot of people have lost people in a very physical sense, in death sense, and on mourning, and people have lost all sorts of things, and not just people. You know, this year has been a year of shift, of change, of moving. I moved home this year, and it wasn't something that I was necessarily wanting to do at the beginning of half of this year at all. But the move was great. I'm now in a space where I don't have unpleasant landlords hanging over my every step and turning up outside if I'm ever outside their property for more than 5 minutes and judging and being nasty all the time. So I'm free of that, and I am so glad to be free of that complete breath of fresh air, to not have to deal with that ever again. Whew, yes. And then, you know, there's been ill health, which again, I had this moment earlier where I sort of laughed at myself, because I was like, oh, I've not had it this bad this year. Oh, apart from that moment where they told me it could be life-threatening illness and I was in hospital. Other than that, but to me, again, it depends how you look at those situations. That was a very strong moment of silence for me. I think there is a tendency in witchcraft circles to sort of ram things down the throat that when you're sick you should be being witchy and getting over it through witchcraft. And all I could think at the time was, bitches, if I can't make it out of bed 3 steps, and when I am making it out of bed 3 steps, it's to go vomit up bile for the 5th time this hour, I'm not going to be raising energy for spell work. It's just nonsense. And we do what we can do in these situations, and sometimes the witchcraft is listening to our bodies saying, lie down, shut the fuck up and heal. And these situations as well allow us to embrace that silence. And this year for me has been very much about silence versus noise. I've talked about this on a couple of videos. I talked about this on the Deepening Our Relationship video with the goddess Morrigan. I talked about it on the blog again, and really I feel like that's what this year has been about. It's about discerning what noise versus silence is, and where the power is in both, and where to step away from both is. For example, noise can be mindless chatter that means nothing, and learning to discern the noises that mean something from the aimless nattered chatter that doesn't mean anything to you. And silence can be empowering. You can start to hear your own heartbeat, your own soul calling. You can realize who you actually are, how you've changed, the person that you want to become, versus when you're having too much silence and you hermit a bit too much, and you're isolating yourself from the environment around you and the connections that you need to create. And it's learning to walk the middle path between both, and realizing that there are times to speak and times to be silent, and times to react and times not to react. And the balance between these two things has been the lessons of silence versus noise that I feel have very much typified 2016. And in a way that's kind of death lessons when you think about it. Like there's a time to live and talk and be proactive and speak out and engage and embrace, and then there's a time of death, of silence, of pause, of reflection, of healing, of keeping on going but not reacting. And that for me has been 2016 in a bit of a nutshell. Help, I'm in a nutshell. Oh gosh, honestly, references all over. And that to me is what Samhain kind of has come to put a close on, I hope. I don't think we're done with death yet. I think we will see far more death right up until, I'm going to say, March of next year. And people are going to be throwing things at me now, but that is my feeling, that we're not done with death yet. Or death isn't done with us, whichever. And Samhain, of course, is a time to really honour our relationship with death. We human beings have a weird way of dealing with death. It's a fascinating cultural study, actually, to see how different time periods and cultures of people deal with death, and the belief systems across religions and spiritualities and again, cultures have changed, evolved, shifted, and how we treat our dead and remember our dead. And something that I do every year is the honouring of the forgotten dead, where I go to the graveyards and I take apple slices and I put them on the forgotten graves, or the damaged graves, or the graves that haven't been tended to in a very long time, because I feel like these people had lives and relationships and families that have been forgotten, and that, you know, they don't deserve to be completely forgotten at such a time of year, especially when many of us are honouring our own ancestors. And for me, it can be a little bit more difficult because I'm estranged from my family members, apart from my sister. So there is a gap in knowledge and a gap in accessibility of knowledge and photographs and so on and so forth to ancestry and ancestors. So I have what I have, and I have photos of my grandma, and that's about it. And that feels a bit lacking sometimes, so I kind of have to do a general ancestry honouring. It's not as specific as a lot of people can make their altars and things. But I can honour the blood of my blood, the bloodline that flows through my veins. I can honour my mother, Morrigan, who is my spiritual mother, who guides me through these turbulent and difficult years, and even the slightly less turbulent and difficult years, is hoping for a slightly less turbulent 2017 going through Samhain. So yeah, there you go. That is how I feel about this amazing time of year. I think it's a potent, powerful and witchy time of year, and I love it. But that's it for this particular video. Many blessings.